So hi Paul. So we're here today. So we're going to try a new format, I suppose, today, having a bit of a very informal natter, I suppose, over lunch. And I thought a good topic would be for us to chat about would be a bit about B2B marketing. So I know you and I have been. I mean, you've been a big inspiration for me in terms of some of the stuff you've been doing, particularly in some of the tactics you've got around sort of getting out there on social media and stuff like that. So I thought it'd be good to have a bit of a chat about that.
Yeah.
Whenever we chat, we always seem to learn new stuff. Well, I always learn new stuff anyway. So I got to try that. I got to try that. So I think it's a good way for us to try a bit of a new format, really. So what do you
So
think?
I like breaking stuff, Chris. I like breaking stuff. Like, if you tell me how to use a product or a tool, and my brain just automatically thinks like, I don't want to use it like that.
uh,
I want to do something else with it. I've got an idea, and I'm gonna, and then I spend hours going down rabbit holes, and then it doesn't work.
so what do you think's happened? Because it feels to me like during the pandemic, the whole sort of scene has kind of changed. I know we've had social media going on in the background, but the whole sort of scene has changed in terms of like how to get a hold of people, particularly the B2B space. I mean, your background sales, right? So I mean, how to get hold of people. I mean, how do you think that's changed? I mean, because it feels like it's all about social media. We're talking about Facebook versus LinkedIn, I suppose. But I mean, what's your kind of view on how it's all changed? Because it feels dramatically different, particularly where money's being spent.
So I think it's harder to get noticed
Mm,
than it ever has been before. And what that does for me is it makes it really hard for people who aren't experienced in the field.
mm,
You've got a lot of salespeople and a lot of so there's a lot of salespeople combined with a lot of founders.
yeah.
The founders are just trying to get along, just trying to do their job, and the salespeople are just trying to do their job. But there's a lot of lazy salespeople out there who are just using things like ChatGPT and stuff like that just to get across more. And do you know what? It's kind of all stemmed from asking people for the wrong metrics for me.
Yeah.
Like you target people on how many people have you contacted today.
Yeah.
That's not driving revenue for your business. All people are going to do is they're going to go, right. I've had a slow week this week, so I'm going to touch another 100 accounts. It doesn't matter what the quality of the touch is, as long as I can see I can tick that KPI. It's crap. So I think COVID has pushed a lot more focus on online, and I don't think the salespeople ever really moved back from that because nobody likes cold calling people and nobody likes going to
Mm,
face meetings anymore. Everybody's lazy, right? They know they can touch 20, 30 people in a day through digital contact rather than having to make phone calls that might go on for an hour. That's dangerous, and I have to think.
do you think it's still a volume play? Because it always used to be like a volume play, which is like go and reach out as many people as you possibly can, and then some of them will come back. Is it still a volume play? I mean, does it change that? Do you think the dynamics have changed a little bit? Because now it's sort of like, I suppose it is volume, and social media allows you to get to much larger volume, but then
Yeah,
it's also about engagement, right? Because like some of the style that we've been chatting about has been sort of like different styles of trying to get people engaged, really, isn't it?
yeah. So if I think about outbound sales,
Mm,
right, their play has been volume, and lazy people play volume all the time. And I've started knocking about with some people who are ridiculously successful at sales, and
mm,
actually they're the complete opposite. They're like, no, 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 I'm not doing more than like maximum is
mm,
25, 30 emails a day to the right people that I've researched and I understand them a bit. Like I know their niche and I know their industry, and I think that's why content marketing and social is becoming a lot more popular because it allows people who don't have that experienced sales skill set
mm.
or have that resource in house yet to be able to still reach quite a lot of people. And I actually think it's more productive. Like I look at those guys, I laugh at them. I'm like, guys, you put so much effort into all of this, and it's brilliant. Like some of the stuff they come up with is amazing. But I'm like, guys, like I brought 10 leads inbound over the weekend
Mm.
by content. Like I didn't really have to do too much with it.
And so I suppose some of it seems like, but there's almost like there's so much out there now, and it seems like it's accelerating, I think, because the tools are relatively straightforward to do. I mean, the expertise and the SME process, I suppose, in the background, the subject matter expertise is hard to replicate, but the tools themselves are quite easy to replicate. I mean, do you think there's too much out there? And I suppose, and then I suppose the other question is like, how do you get above the noise, right? If there is a lot out there, what do you think about that?
I think about tools, for example. I mean, ChatGPT's made this far worse because now there are, like, when there were 1 million tools before, there are 1 billion tools now. It's ridiculous. And you can't just look at the brand that's made the software and go, oh, well, that'll be rubbish because I don't know them. Because actually, a lot of the best tools are made by really small software houses that nobody's ever heard of until now. And now you can kind of, you can make apps with no code now, like, very easily. And so there's salespeople out there, even marketing people, who are noticing a problem that they have and then building tools that bridge that gap. So yeah, it's harder than ever to find tools that fit your need. But what I would say to people is, like, don't pay the mega bucks for the tools that have been accepted in the past because they're not fit for purpose anymore. There are tools out there that will just blow your mind and fit you perfectly. You just need to put the effort into finding them. Like for me, coming across Descript, Descript was perfect.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
Like, you use it for the filler words. I use it for the filler words because everyone's conversation's full of filler words. You just don't hear it until you see it on a screen. So if you've never used Descript, like, if you watch along, like, Descript basically takes, like, audio or video and transcribes it down into a Word document that you edit the Word document. And as you edit the Word document, it moves the video and audio about automatically, which is really hard to do when you're doing, like, just video-based editing. That's mind-numbingly boring. Transcription is, like, makes that 10 times simpler because you can take in words 100 times faster, and then it takes out all the filler words for you as well, which makes, it keeps the audio and video the same if you want it to, just correct your transcript so it's not full of, like, all the fluff in the middle that adds character but doesn't. If you're reading along on your phone, you don't want to be reading, but will, like, that's horrible. So that's a good example of
it's when you take it out and you and then you get the video discontinuity. So all of a sudden the video goes like that, isn't it? It's sort of like and you see that on other videos as well. So you see that on YouTube videos where people have done it. So the audio sounds good, but then the video discontinuities, we're sort of getting used to them to a certain extent.
You're using it wrong. You're using it for podcast mode there, mate. So if you go into remove filler words, there's an option for correct transcript only. Because I used to do that, and I was like, oh, well, it doesn't matter because most of my content I clip up into 30-second clips. You probably don't see them anyway. But actually, if you click correct transcript, all it does is it removes the text from the wording that you put up on the screen, but it doesn't edit the audio or video. So your audio and video flows nicely, but your text just disappears. All the fluff disappears. So, like, when I figured that one out, that was like, oh, that's amazing. It's so much nicer. So, right, going back to the question, though. So tech, yes, more complicated than ever, harder to find what you want, but more likely to find tools that you do want to use that are better fitted for you specifically and are cheaper than they've ever been, in fairness. What was the other half of the question, Chris? I can't remember.
I can't remember. I was thinking about how it's different. How it's different. The other thing I find is how it's different the way we talk is very different from the way you write. And it really comes across when you're doing the video stuff, right? In terms of, like, the way we talk and using filler words, and you don't necessarily understand, hear yourself using filler words. And even when other people are talking, you don't hear the filler words, but when you see it written down, it becomes really obvious. But also the way we construct sentences is quite different in terms of the way we talk and the way we write. And I find that really quite interesting. You have to sort of, like, change it around, particularly in terms of if you're converting it to, like, articles and those kind of things. That's where there's a bit of work there. So,
well, that's where I use things like ChatGPT, because that's perfect for summarising those sorts of things to get your thoughts in order. So you can feed it, like, you can't feed it the whole transcript, but you can feed it part of the transcript and go, tell me what the main takeaways are from this, so that I don't have to sit and sift through it. Where's the break points in it? Where's the interest in art? Right, and then you've got them. Now you build out on that, and you can ask ChatGPT to assist to a point, but add your own different stuff in over the top. And that's where I'm finding people excel now, is the people who can use tools like ChatGPT to enhance what they already do well. No, that's making them superstars, and far more productive superstars than they were. And the people that just want to, people who choose the path of least resistance as per, well, it's just making them even more obvious, because anybody can spot that now.
What about channels? I know you do a lot on LinkedIn. I do a lot on LinkedIn. I mean, my experience was LinkedIn is probably pretty effective in terms of, like, being for the SME space, which is really where I sort of do videos. LinkedIn seems probably like the most effective versus others. I mean, but what about Facebook? I mean, I've heard quite a lot of feedback around Facebook, particularly if you want to get to a mass market audience, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
huge, I mean, it's a huge market there versus LinkedIn, and the dynamics are kind of different, aren't they? Between, LinkedIn is a little bit more corporate, maybe it's different kind of dynamic than, say, for example, than where Facebook would be.
Yeah, it's funny. So I do post on Facebook. I've just started posting in the last couple of weeks. So my potted history with Facebook is I came off 15 years ago because it used to make my blood boil because it's full of trolls. Right? I hate people who are horrible to other people. Like, I like LinkedIn because it's just, to your point, it's more professional. So people generally don't troll other people, certainly in public. And I've had very little experience with it. And start it now. If you're watching this, start it now. You're in bother. Like, I will have you. But Facebook, I started over the last couple of weeks, and I think I'm quite fortunate because my tone and personality in my posts is quite informal anyway.
Mm.
So yeah, I can imagine from a corporate point of view, you'd probably struggle with Facebook. I think for startups, though, I think it's perfect. Like,
Yeah,
more or less replicate your LinkedIn, but still, I would encourage people. My thoughts are, one, start, because starting putting stuff out there is better than not putting anything out at all. But then refine it, because you need to differentiate how your Facebook is different to your LinkedIn, and it's
yeah,
a different. You've got to think like Facebook. You're talking to people who are sat eating their tea at home at the dinner table because they're browsing their feed and they're looking at their friends and family, and you're in amongst all of that. How do you want to appear in that feed versus when you appear on LinkedIn and you're in amongst all the other, CEOs and founders and sales professionals, etc., who are on there? Like, that's a different setting, if that makes
yeah.
sense.
I mean, the argument was used to me was that, well, CEO and founders are still at home eating their tea as well, right?
Yeah.
And there's an interesting stat that was used. It was around like the dominant or the number of users by almost like social media, and the amount that Facebook basically dominates the top of that list. I mean, it's like the top five or the top four out of the top five. I mean, are all Facebook related, be it either Instagram, be it sort of Facebook, be it WhatsApp. I mean, it's really quite dominant in terms of users. Things like Twitter was way down. I mean, I use Twitter a fair bit for news, but it was way down. So it doesn't. It might be important to me, but it's not necessarily important in the wider picture. I mean, LinkedIn just seems like it's very sort of like niche, but an important niche for our industries, I think.
I think the problem is,
And this is out on LinkedIn, and hopefully this is out on LinkedIn as an example, right? So LinkedIn is my go-to, right? So
yeah, I think that the problem is most business people use LinkedIn for business reasons and they understand how it works, and they probably used to using Facebook for personal reasons, and it feels like a bit of a transgression to
hmm.
write on Facebook about business stuff. And I don't think it's true.
Is that just because we're old, though? Is that just because we're all old?
Getting there, getting there.
Oh, you're younger than me, clearly. I mean, I don't have one of those filters. I was playing with the Snapchat filters last night because I had my birthday the other day. Between either making me look like I was 20, and then the other one was making me look like I was old, and the one that made me look old was scarily familiar. So
We're not too far away.
yeah,
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. CEOs, founders, whoever you want to reach, they're probably on Facebook already. The problem that you've got is, where do you stop?
yeah,
Because you can't possibly be across, like, without becoming a zombie that's attached to their phone 100% of the time. How do you get across all of the socials and be successful at all of them all the time?
mm,
You can't. So my advice is, like, pick one, maybe two that you want to focus on heavily, and then try your best to, and take this with a pinch of salt, automate as best you can the others.
mm,
So not completely automate them, but do enough that you don't have to focus on them all the time every day. You can put a bit of effort in now and again, and that way you're getting views and you're getting access to that platform, but you're not wasting time that you could be using. Like, let's be honest, there's a billion other things that founders and CEOs like need to be doing. From finance to investment to running their business to product development to all the rest of the stuff that they've got to do. And for me, that's kind of why I started Javelin. Right, it was just, I wanted to be able to take that off someone's plate. Not necessarily the whole of social media, like, I don't want to do that, but a chunk of that where you want to do it well. Like, let me do that for you. I'm
mm.
not going to train you on how to do it. I'm not another LinkedIn trainer, because God, I'm sick of seeing LinkedIn trainers.
I just feel like there's a bit of an arms race in content
Mm.
and volume of content. I mean, I just looking at podcasts as well. So I like podcasts, and there's lots of podcasts that are out there. I think and there's all these different formats that are basically sort of expanding like this, and the amount of time we actually have to observe this stuff. If I'm like the customer, is getting shorter and shorter. But you're just getting. I mean, like what do you look at, right? I mean, do you think there's too much? Do you think there's too much? I mean, is it, it's like launching a podcast, or is it launching, a video series? Is launching like doing articles? I mean, is it doing everything? Is it just going to go off into the ether and not do anything? Or do you think it's, I mean, how do you sort of mitigate that?
Do you know what? I saw a stat the other day where,
Mm,
and I didn't do the research, so I can't say anything, but it sounds right. There was something like only 750,000 podcasts globally that have made it past episode 10.
mm,
So a hell of a lot of podcasts out there, but most of them don't make it past episode 10. And from launching a few myself, like I'd be willing to bet it's because of the initial um, download numbers. Unless you're sponsoring it, boosting it, and promoting it very heavily with serious budget behind
mm,
it. Most people don't. So no, I don't think there are too many podcasts out there. I talk to people who are like, "Oh, I wanted to do a podcast, but I've seen at least one other in my industry, so I'm not going to bother."
mm,
Right? You can do three things, right? You can be first to market with what you do, which happens once in a lifetime. You can be best in the market, which takes a huge budget. Your Apples, your Nikes of the world, or you can be different. And like, as long as you've got a unique viewpoint for your podcast, and then disseminated. So, like to your point, like people don't want to sit and experiment with watching a new podcast for 30 minutes before they decide
mm,
whether they like it or not. So,
mm,
give them a few 30-second chunks on your LinkedIn feed and let them decide whether they want to watch it. If the
mm.
content's good enough, it'll drive people to the podcast. If it isn't, we'll do something different.
I was looking at YouTube. YouTube videos, and so I do look at, increasingly I use YouTube actually, and obviously you got YouTube Shorts there, but one of the guys was saying there's been this countdown piece, and he's getting like millions of views. So all he does is it's 100 days of countdown, and he counted down from every day. He counted down from one down to zero, two down to zero, three down to zero, one every day, and at the end it was getting like, I don't know, 1.5 million views, something like that. It was just like there's this stuff out there that's just sort of like madness, right? And you sort of like, what is driving that from an observer point of view in terms of the curiosity. I can
And
tell you that getting 1.2 million from discussions around collections technology and process is a bit of a pipe dream. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I'm not sure that's the target market, but
yeah,
it
but
is amazing though. There's so much out there, and some videos just do incredibly well.
I just think like it's horses for courses, right? There's so many different ways you can use social media. Um, and you know what? You're probably the third person this week to tell me that they use YouTube a lot more than they've ever done.
Mm,
And I never saw YouTube as being a place where I thought you would gain business traction, right?
mm,
And yet I launched a podcast on there mid-April, yeah, early to mid-April, and we're now sat at nearly 70 subscribers. We've never really promoted it. We've never really paid. We've not paid for anything. Nearly 70 subscribers, and considering most of the videos are 30 seconds to a minute and a half,
mm.
it's just a podcast broken down into segments, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
we've got like 29,000 views.
yeah,
YouTube Shorts.
yeah.
Um, in what, 6 weeks? Like, that's immense. And I never thought, like, because I don't use YouTube like that. My son watches stuff on there. He likes to. He's into his trains and Lego and stuff like that. He's 5. He likes to watch stuff like that. But I've never really considered YouTube for me, other than maybe educational, like how-to videos. That's where I use it. It's like, how do I do X, Y, and Z? And
Yeah.
even then, if there was a written guide that was comprehensive enough, I'd probably still rather the written guide, because I like to watch things with the sound off. I don't like to disturb family time. If I'm going to watch something like that, I just want to quickly see it, store it, and then the next day I'll use it.
I mean, it does feel like, I mean, YouTube's increasingly becoming, particularly for long form content. I think it's becoming increasingly important, right, for the educational stuff. I think it's becoming like a new TV channel, and that's the kind of where they're going, isn't it? I
Mm,
think,
yeah.
and it is interesting. I mean, what happens with things like TikTok? I mean, TikTok's actually has. lighter restrictions around length of video than YouTube does, like on Shorts. I mean, you can put more than a minute in, where it's sort of like 15 seconds to a minute, I think, on Shorts on YouTube, right? So, um,
Yeah, and like I had a video that did 1,600 views within the first 30 minutes, and it was like
mm,
5 seconds long.
mm,
But then, like I think there's probably quirks to each of those platforms as well. Like, so it probably has some sort of stuff in the algorithm around how much percentage of that video got watched, and if you got a shorter video, people are more likely to watch the whole thing.
yeah,
So then it tricks the algorithm into it. So probably very short clips do really well on YouTube
yeah,
as a result of the fact that it's tricky. I mean, it's probably weighted. I don't know. If
yeah.
there's anybody watching the show from YouTube, help us out. Tell us how it works, because I'd love to find.
I'm sure there's actually a video on that. I'm pretty sure there's a video on that. I've seen one.
Well,
um,
I'll
um,
ask ChatGPT. It'll tell me.
yeah. I suppose, and how much how much do you think is too much? I mean, so we're in this sort of like, and I write about it on my site around the attention economy, and I've written about that before. I'm going to do a little piece on it on my site. But we're in this battle for attention, in this battle for eyeballs. I mean, do you go for? I mean, what's your advice? Do you go for quality of content, or do you go for volume?
I go
So I
for
mean, it's
both. I go for both. Like, the point you should stop producing content is when you stop adding value.
mm,
If it's not interested, don't produce it.
mm,
If it's adding value, do it. Like, and the more the better, because you're in that race against other people. The only thing really that you should be considering is how does that play into the number of views that you get based on the allocation from, like, so LinkedIn's notorious for the algorithm, right? Like, if you do 2 posts in a day, you get slapped on the wrist. You do 3, you get really slapped on the wrist. You do any more than that, it's pointless. All those sorts of things, which frustrates me, but I understand it at the same time. So if you want to play that game, play that game. My thinking on that is yes, to an extent, but make it for your audience. And if you're doing it for the right reasons, you should be fine.
And what about viewer fatigue? So this is where your advice from, I suppose, from a sales point of view, which is, I mean, because it is around volume, right? So if you get out there, you've got good content. I mean, I suppose you always have to say you have good content, but if you get out there and you're putting volume out there, you're going to get viewer fatigue where people just turn off. So like, I've seen Paul for five times this week already. I don't want to see any more.
There's people out there
But
nodding along. Stop nodding.
yeah. So versus. Oh, there's some fresh content that's coming in. So I go back to YouTube, and there's some people like they post every day, and is that better versus sort of waiting for something that's going to be a little bit sort of like it's going to be a little bit more sort of information rich, but is then maybe a little bit longer, but it's going to be a little bit less often.
I think it's that battle of consistency versus virality, right? Like,
Mm,
viral posts don't drive business. So I don't try and write viral posts. I write posts, or I record posts that will intrigue my audience, or
mm,
hope they will anyway. And yeah, probably people will go, "Oh well, I've seen 3 videos of Paul today. I'm not watching that." But the point for me is that they're becoming familiar with me, and as
mm,
long as that content's not annoying them, they might skip past the odd video, but they might watch the odd video. As long as that content's not annoying them and causing them to unfollow me, then it's doing its job, because it's almost like it's promoting my brand with my clients or my future clients, right? I'm establishing that I'm there as an authority, and each to their own. Like some people are uncomfortable with that.
I can I can hear the thick skin of a salesman there with your experience there. It's like, well, if I get visibility, any what do they say, any visibility is good visibility, or I mean, it kind of add a little bit anyway. So
Yeah,
you
to an
don't have
extent.
negative stuff out there,
To
but
an extent, I'm not one for clickbait, right? Like, it took me forever to write hook lines, and
yeah,
everybody bangs on about hook lines on LinkedIn. Honestly, I don't think they make any difference whatsoever. I mean, I'm not a pro copywriter either, so I haven't spent years honing my skills as a copywriter. So maybe I just don't do it well enough. But I've steal this hook line and write a viral post in 3 days. Like, I've never had a viral post. I've had some that have done well, and they've all been personal posts that
mm,
and again, like, that's a valid point, right? Like, I'm also not saying don't do personal posts, because I think they're a big part of the difference that you can make, with a personal account on LinkedIn. Let people see underneath the surface a bit. like everything's not hunky dory, that you're not always winning, you're not always hustling, you're spending time with your family, because people want to know that. So the better people get to know you, the more likely they are to come to you as a client.
I do think the authenticity piece is an important piece. I mean, the videos that I do is try and emphasize that around authenticity, because I think people want to buy from other people, and they want to buy from people who know what they're talking about. They want to buy from, they're interested in hearing about what's really going on, and it's sort of like the authenticness rather than sort of the things being sort of over amplified to a certain extent. And I mean, maybe that's just my background, sort of in ops and financial services, which is I'm straight to the demo and seeing what it actually looks like, rather than the nice PowerPoint to a certain extent, or those kind of things. And I think the authenticity comes through, particularly when you've got a lot of content that's out there.
Yeah, yeah, and I try and mix it up, right? So some of my stuff's like evergreen stuff that I'll post every few months or every few weeks if it's about the business. If I want to get my offering out there, like that's not going to massively change. You might tweak how I say it, but ultimately some of the content's going to be the same, because I'm constantly getting new followers and new connections, and they, like everyone else, needs to know what I do.
Yeah.
I heard a great quote the other day: "Is the only person that gets bored of your content is you, because you're seeing it specifically over and over again. Most of your audience, and that's where the LinkedIn algorithm works, right? It's there to feed stuff to people that they haven't seen before, and it does a read. I think they do quite a good job. I'm a bit fed up with all the paid adverts that I keep seeing in my feed at the moment, especially on mobile.
Mm.
They've gone overboard with that right now, I think. And I have to wonder how much they're charging for that, because it's always big businesses or really like
Yeah.
lucrative consultancies. Anyway,
Well, that's why I think the authenticity cuts through that, right? So it's
yeah,
because it's like it's a little bit different. I love what you're saying about the getting bored. It's like you just wonder how much, I don't know, you two, whether they're sitting there and they're singing the same songs again for the umpteenth time, and sort of trying to
yeah,
keep it fresh. And like these guys are pros, right? I mean, I just think it's amazing. I mean, they think about some of the biggest stars probably get bored with their own content as well, but they keep it fresh, right? They got to keep it fresh.
you go back to like contact center scripts, right? Like, and this is one of the conversations we had in the early days, right? It was contact center scripts, and everybody goes, "Oh, don't give your agents a script because it's unempowering. It doesn't empower them." Well, yeah, but like Elvis sang the same song on stage every night
Yeah,
for like,
yeah.
2-3 years, and nobody said he was uninspiring, did they? Or unempowering? Like, didn't look unmotivated, did he? He was doing all right. He enjoyed it. I think it's about how you deliver it, and making it yours. But like, if it's everybody that's out there that's thinking about all these things, like you probably haven't even started yet, and that's the
Mm,
important thing. Is just start.
yeah,
Like all of
yeah,
these things that we're discussing ultimately are irrelevant if you don't post regularly. Worry
yeah.
about these things once you've started posting, but like just start, because
Yeah.
then you're ahead of 99% of LinkedIn.
As always, I've got someone at the door during the middle of one of my videos, so that's the other occupational hazards I think we both have, so to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But I mean, so Paul, I mean, where do we go from here? Do you think? I mean, so last time, I mean, we're over time a little bit now, but I mean, what's next? Do you think? I mean, AI bots. You talked about ChatGPT already.
Do you know, my mum was talking to me about this again this morning. My
Your
mum,
mum talking about ChatGPT again, or
well, yeah, she was talking about ChatGPT, but she didn't call it that. She calls it AI.
yeah,
That AI, that's the singular AI that's going to kill us all. She remembers Terminator 2. That's the problem.
yeah,
She thinks she's living through Terminator 2 right now, bless her. I always talk about my mum on all my shows. Like, I love my mum to bits. And I had a moment with her this morning. I was like, "Will you stop watching the TV, for crying out loud? That bloody news is killing my ears." And she's like,
yeah,
"What?" Well, like, it says it's going to take everyone's jobs and this, that, and the other. I was like, "Yeah, all right. Well, the next time you see someone with a shovel, tell them to stop shoveling, because it's unfair on those 20 guys with teaspoons behind them."
yeah,
Like, it's not taking all our jobs. It is going to be part of the future, whether we like it or not. The key isn't blindly using it; it's finding ways to augment what you already do and make what you do better. So if you currently write rubbish posts, it's going to help you write average posts. If you write good posts, it's going to help you write excellent posts. If you don't write anything at all and you just ask ChatGPT, it's going to put out rubbish, and which everybody's going to spot. So AI. Like, I've got a friend of mine who's releasing a sales tool soon, and it's essentially it's going to look at who have they've sold to before, who their clients were, who the stakeholders were. It's going to find similar accounts out in the wild. It's going to search the whole of the internet for businesses that are similar. It's going to find the right stakeholders. It's going to suggest them as leads, and it's going to tell you what to write in the email. Brilliant. But his whole point with it all is this still at no point replaces the salespeople. And it's a great example, right? It doesn't replace and it can't replace the salespeople because you still need to have that human relationship. All it's doing is changing the dynamics of the conversation. So you're no longer providing the information, you're no longer opening the door. What you're doing is you're closing the deal, building the relationship with that person. You can concentrate on the human stuff. And that's
I think it's going to be a big time saver for most folks. I'm not sure how much people realise. I think it's the people who are using it will know, but I also think, and I wrote the other day, I think once you start using it, it's very hard to stop using it. I mean, it's that. I mean, it's a bit like the washing machine, right? So before we did the washing, we did washing by hand. Now we can't live without a washing machine, or the car, or those kind of things. And once you start, I mean, it's just, the cat's out the bag, I think, in terms of using it, because it just saves so much time. And there is some skill in using it, in terms of like how you actually write it, or how you actually use it, how you actually integrate it. And ChatGPT is only there's only one of many forms, right? There's other ones that are out there as well. There's open source ones that are out there, and I think it'll start getting embedded in everywhere, really. So,
and it should do, because like how can I still, and I can't use her name properly, but the Amazon device that's up there, like how can it still not understand like structured conversation? Can you turn the lights down and put some Bon Jovi on? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. How can you not know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm sure if I say the name now, then it'll kick off during the middle of the call as well. So.
It usually does, yeah. It usually does. I have to press the mute button, but it's I think there are so many ways. Who would have thought? I was dead against having voice assistants in my house at one point. I was like, oh, I don't really see the point. Don't really find it useful. And do you know what? With a 5-year-old, I've got one in every room in the house now, and we have music whenever we want it. And he's been brought up on very limited TV, but very much music. And that's nice, because when I was a kid, I had to get the old record player out or the tape decks out, and I had to rewind the tape to the point where I wanted to play. I want that song on that, to fast forward past Kylie Minogue and get to the Lightning Seeds or whatever I wanted to get to. Like now, you can ask it, like, find me some new music that I've never listened to before.
It's incredible, isn't it? It really is incredible how things have moved. You just sort of wonder where we go from next, from here. So, Paul. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, just for me, like it's all this doom mongering. For anybody who doesn't use it, it's all you hear is doom mongering and bad news, and it's just not. It's another tool that will benefit us all. You just got to learn how to use it and live with it in your life, or like deal with the outputs of it. It's not for everyone. Not everybody can be technically minded enough to use it. That's fair. So, like, you won't be part of the new wave of people who are using that technology to drive their own career forward, but you will benefit from the outcomes of it still.
I do think it takes some of the mundane tasks away, depending on which form it is, that allows you to be more creative as well. So I don't think it doesn't replace stuff at all. It just allows you to do different things, and I think it's very interesting. So. So Paul, I know we're out of time, ran over a little bit. So thanks very much. Thanks very much, everyone else who watched as well. That's fantastic. I hope you like the new format, and we'll chat soon. Thanks, Paul.
See you later. Thanks. Bye.
See ya.